going to start with a poem today. We're going to start with a poem today. This is going to be a longer sermon. This is going to be a longer sermon. This is by Dylan Thomas. And I know that when I start reading this poem, you're going to immediately recognize some of the lines. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at the close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Though wise men at their end know dark is right, because their words had forked no lightning, they do not go gentle into that good night. Good men the last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Wild men who caught and sang the sun in flight and learned too late. They grieved it on its way. Do not go gentle into that good night. Grave men near death who see blinding sight. Blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. And you, my Father, there on the sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. I chose to open today's Sunday sermon with that, and I'm not going to lie, as I start to talk about this, I'm shaking. I'm shaking. I had just like normal, completely other sermon I was going to give this morning. Until I got up at 4:44, woken up from a dream. 3 seconds of a dream. And it was not a good dream. It was not a good dream. And then I woke up about 8 after tossing and turning for almost 3 hours. And I got up and my first thought was, you need to look at the news, because I haven't looked at the news all weekend. And then my immediate thought was to go grab this. To go grab this. And it feels heavy today. This is so heavy today. And for those of you guys that don't know what this is, let me learn you. This, my friends, is probably something that you will never see. This right here is a Pearl Harbor survivor's coin. From the 50th anniversary. It is a challenge coin. It's solid bronze. But there's something special about this coin and why you will probably never see one. This one is engraved to my grandfather, who was on the USS Maryland. Who was one of the few who had ammo that was usable. And this is heavy today. So before I start this sermon, I want you to know right now that yes, it is that kind of sermon today. It's spicy. It's going to give you a lot to think about. I'm shaky. My voice is going to crack during this sermon. Because just like you, I'm mad. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. I'm sad. I'm scared. I don't know what to do. And at the same time, I do know exactly what to do. Today's sermon is titled, Stand for the Living, Spiritual Courage in a Human World, Why We Fight at All. And before I start, I need to take a deep breath. And I need you to take one too. Some of you guys notice the boof be boofing. I needed to be Bodhi 100% today for you and for me. Because Mandy is scared. Mandy is scared shitless right now. And angry. Spirituality is not something that we do instead of just living in the world. It's something we do inside of it. It's something that has always been done inside of it. And there are so many different times in history when being spiritual meant being gentle, meant being quiet. It meant tending gardens and lighting candles and making jars and whispering spell work and prayers into the dark. And that's the part we all love about it, right? It's the part we all love about it. I want to go play plants. I want to go light fires and burn candles at night and just sit and stare into a bonfire and forget that the world exists. And then there are times when being spiritual means standing up. All of that strength that you gained from sitting at a bonfire at midnight, 2, 3, 4 a.m. All of that wisdom that you gained from staring up at the stars. Standing up in that. Standing visible in that power. Would it be easier to sit down and be quiet? Absolutely. Would it be easier to go and just play in the plants and play in the candles and do that? Would it be easier? Absolutely. Would it be safer? Absolutely. But today is not about fighting for an idea. Today is not about fighting for a belief system. Today is not about fighting for your planty plants. Today is not about lighting candles. And today is not about sitting still. Today is about fighting for your fellow fucking human beings. It's about fighting for people. It's about fighting for your neighbors. It's about fighting for strangers that you're never going to meet. It's about fighting for people who don't look like you, who don't sound like you, who don't love like you, who don't pray like you, who don't live like you. Because spirituality without compassion is fake. It's hollow. It's bullshit. Spirituality of any type, whether it be paganism, whether it be Christianity, whether it be Muslim, whether it be Buddhist, I don't care. Without compassion, it's fucking fake. All of it. Live, laugh, love, be fake. Spirituality without the courage to stand up for other people is just a fucking decoration. It's just something that you bought at the fucking discount store for $5. It's an aesthetic. Today's Sunday sermon is a little different because we're going to go through a little bit of ancestral witness. We're going to go through ancestors that we all share. Because no matter what part of this next aspect of ancestral veneration I talk about, you fall into it somewhere. I don't care who you are. I don't care what color you are. I don't care who you love. I don't care what you believe in. You fall into this somewhere. And we're going to start with this. We're going to start with this. We're going to start with something real, something tangible, something that the vast majority of you watching right now have a direct tie to. I mentioned that this was given to my grandfather on the 50th anniversary of the attack of Pearl Harbor. It has his name engraved on the bottom. Do you think that my grandpa woke up that morning getting ready to go to shore, getting ready to go to Honolulu? Do you think that he got up that morning thinking that today would be one of the most infamous days in history? Do you think that he woke up that morning thinking, you know what, I'm going to do something heroic today? Do you think he woke up that morning on December 7th, 1941, thinking that history would somehow find him right there on that ship? No. He was just a human. He was just a human, a fucking 17-year-old boy from Collinsville, Oklahoma, who found himself in paradise, in Hawaii, on a battleship, waiting, not knowing really what was going to go on. Were they going to go somewhere? Were they not? He found himself on a battleship in Hawaii. He didn't sign up to be part of history. He didn't sign up to be part of a story. He was just literally a human being. A young man from nowhere, Oklahoma, doing his duty. Standing watch. Living life. Existing in a moment that would suddenly become unforgettable. And that's the thing about having courage. That's the thing about being brave, is that it doesn't give you time to say, you know what, at this moment, on this day, at this time, you've got to be brave. It doesn't do that. It doesn't announce itself ahead of time. Do you think that my grandpa got a letter in the mail a couple of days before and said, hey, guess what? You're going to have to be brave on that day. You're going to have to pull burning men from fiery waters. You're going to have to dodge bullets and torpedoes and kamikazes. You're going to have to run and throw spit buckets over the heads of gentlemen standing there trying to defend other people to save their lives. Do you think he got a letter? Do you think he got a letter or a phone call? Hey, this is going to happen. Most people who end up standing in history didn't plan to be brave. They were simply willing to stand up and unwilling to abandon everybody else when the moment demanded something more of them. And spiritual courage isn't about glory. It's about presence. It's about staying when running away would be easier. It's about protecting when hiding would be safer. It's about surviving long enough to pass the truth forward. You guys don't know how many people died at the attack on Pearl Harbor. You should. Because of politics. Because of fucking politics. Every single freedom that you enjoy today, no matter what side of the fucking aisle you're on, sits on a foundation that was built by people who did not get to enjoy the results of their own bravery. It was built on the lifeblood of people that did not get to enjoy the results of their own courage. This coin is not just metal. It's a memory. It's a warning. It's a reminder that history and your ancestry is not distant. It's not way back there. It's inherited. Power loves to use God as a weapon. Always has. Always has. And there comes a massive cost with spiritual oppression. And there's a hard truth that we all need to name. It needs to be out in the fucking open at this point. Because some of the greatest violence in human history was carried out in the name of God. The Crusades are a stark example. Spiritual language was used to justify conquest, bloodshed, erasure. Faith wasn't used to heal then, was it? It was used to dominate. It was used to determine who got to survive. And that is how you tell the difference between spirituality and control. That is how you tell the difference between that false piece of shit spirituality that you put on your chest every morning in the name of whatever, but you don't practice what you preach. True spirituality liberates. False spirituality cages. When belief is stripped, when belief is used to strip others of their humanity, it's no longer sacred. And I want you to let that sink in. I'm going to say it again, and I want you to let it really sink in. When belief, a belief, is used to strip people of their humanity, it is no longer sacred. I don't care what it is. I don't care what it's masked under. It is fucking political violence wearing holy clothes. As a spiritual person today, me, you, anybody that will ever listen to this, as a spiritual person today, we inherit not just the wisdom of our ancestors, not just the history of the deeds that they did, of the bravery that they had. We don't just inherit that. We inherit responsibility. We are tasked with learning the difference between devotion and domination. Between belief and coercion. Between standing up for truth and enforcing obedience. Spirituality should never, ever require that someone else has to suffer to validate itself. If your faith needs victims, it's not divine. If your spirituality requires silence from others, then it is not enlightened. Jesus was put to death for what he said against politics. Jesus was put on the cross and crucified for what he stood up for. if your God demands cruelty, then you have lost your humanity along the way. That's a demon, my friends. And you know what's funny? Oppression rarely arrives fully formed. It doesn't just roll in one day and say, guess what? Here to oppress you. Get in line. It doesn't. It creeps in. It sneaks in. It slides in the dark. It normalizes itself. Whispers before it ever shouts. It relies on people telling themselves, this doesn't concern me. It's not in my state. It's not in my city. It doesn't concern me. Do you think that the rise of the you-know-what, the swastika party, do you think that the rise of that whole regime began with the camps? It began with rhetoric. Scapegoating. Laws that seemed really small at first, not a big deal, right? Like it's just a little thing for our safety. I saw a TikTok today that said somewhere there's a little girl in America that's writing in her diary about how they were taking people out of their homes. World War II started with a diary. With a child, with a voice that survived when that body couldn't. And reminds us of something very, very uncomfortable. That you don't have to be a soldier to be a casualty of silence. How many people lately are a casualty of silence? And we all sit and ask, how could this happen? How could this happen? How could this happen in the United States? How could this happen in America? How could this happen? Because the answer is really simple. And it's also terrifying. Are you ready for it? Are you ready for the answer? Are you ready for how this could happen? Enough people decided it wasn't their problem. Enough people decided it wasn't their problem. Because indifference is fertile ground for cruelty. Silence does not protect you. It only delays your turn. The other day, I had to pick my kid up from college, and we were driving back through downtown Tulsa. Living here for so long, I am acutely aware of the race riots. And you know what's funny? I realized the other day that I learned more about the Tulsa race riots in school in Colorado than I did in Oklahoma. I had that realization the other day. I didn't fully learn about the Tulsa race riots until I was in college and I had a little snippet in a history class. And I thought, what the actual fuck? And I went and I learned and I learned and I learned. And I went and I visited the Greenwood district and I visited the area and I walked around. That wasn't an accident. The race riots were not an accident. It was chaos. It wasn't random. It was planned. Planned chaos. It was the targeted destruction of a thriving, amazing, vibrant Black community. Burned. Because the prosperity were in hands that were considered a threat. Homes were destroyed. Lives were stolen. History was buried, burnt to the ground. And that burial was intentional. Let that sink in. When you erase history, it makes repeating it easier. Let that sink in. What's been erased lately? What's been erased lately in the name of God? What's been erased lately in the name of right versus wrong? Safety versus terrorism. Erased history makes it easier to repeat. When we refuse to teach these stories, when we refuse to talk about these things anymore, it makes injustice portable, probable. When we deny all of that was harmful, then we invite it right the fuck back in. Spirituality demands truth-telling. And if you've never looked into any of the spiritual leaders, I don't care who it is, the Pope, the Dalai Lama, Confucius, Buddha, any of the Native American soothsayers and medicine men and medicine women, wise men, wise women, if you've never looked into any of the famous ones and looked what they stand for and some of the things they said that were truthful that no one wanted to hear but we all needed to hear, then you should. That's your homework. You can't be spiritual and not know about all these other things. Period. You can't. Spirituality demands truth-telling, even when the truth is ugly as fuck. And especially when the truth is uncomfortable. For all my women listeners out there, I want to talk to you for a minute. Especially those of you guys that were born after 1985. Or maybe you were born in, 1980 or after, because you were 5, you didn't really pay attention or remember. And then I want to talk to you men, just anybody that was born after 1980. I want you to listen really carefully. And for those of you guys that were born before 1980, and you remember these things, I want you to speak up. And normally, I don't ask you guys to put what year you were born in the chat, but I would love to see what year you were born when I'm talking about this. Do you know that women weren't always allowed to vote? I know that most of you know that, right? You probably learned about women's suffrage in school, right? You probably learned about it. Did you know that women were not always allowed to own their own property? Did you know that? Did you know that women were not allowed to open bank accounts or have credit cards in their own name until the 80s? In my lifetime, women were not allowed to have a credit card or a bank account in their own name without their husband's permission. Let that sink in. Autonomy was not withheld because women were incapable, because most women were the ones who balanced the checkbook and paid the bills. They don't know how to pay the bills Because the wife always did it. The woman always did it. So it's not because women were incapable. It's not because women were stupid. It's because control was profitable. Spiritual oppression often hides in paperwork, in laws, in systems that decide who gets to be fully human. And we already touched on religion, and we already touched on race, and now we're touching on gender. Where are the parallels? Where are the parallels that you see? Because we're going to touch on one more in a minute. When we talk about freedom, you have to remember that it's not evenly distributed, and it never has been. Never has been. Every right that exists today exists because someone refused to accept that's just how it is. The vast majority of ancient societies are either matriarchal or equal. Let that sink in. Ancient societies. Do you know that there are people that are alive today? This is another reason I wanted to see what year you were born. Do you know that there are people that are alive today that remember that when loving someone openly could get you arrested? There are people that are alive right now that remember when loving someone openly that was different than you could get you arrested. There are people that are alive today that remember when existing openly in the LGBTQ plus community could get you unalived. I remember that. I lived in Denver in the 80s. I remember that. I remember that it could get you arrested. I remember that it could get you unalived. I remember watching the news. I remember MTV. I remember the MTV news. I remember seeing all of those things, all of the marches for gay rights. I remember. The LGBTQ plus community, their rights, the rights movement was not born out of comfort. It was born out of refusal. Refusal to disappear, refusal to be quiet, refusal to be shamed, to accept that shame as destiny. I have had friends that have been unalived because of political rhetoric. Those of you guys who have been following me for any length of time, especially for a long time, for a couple of years, then you know that we had a family friend that was unalived in the shooting in Colorado Springs. My kids both knew this wonderful person. My sister, we all worked with him. Dan was one of the most fantastic human beings I've ever met. That kid was always smiling. He was always grinning. He was always supporting someone else. He was always doing what he could to make other people around him happy. And he had his life stolen because of rhetoric. Love is not rebellion. Love is the very essence of spirituality, of every single form of fucking spirituality. Love is the basis of it. Let me take a breath because I know my blood pressure going through the roof right now. I'm just curious. Does anybody know how many times love is mentioned in the Bible? I don't know, but I'm sure it's in the hundreds, if not thousands. Love is not rebellion. Love is truth expressed without permission. And whenever a system tries to regulate that love, you should ask what it's truly afraid of. What are you so afraid of that you need to regulate how people love the person that they love? What are you afraid of? Because love, real love, dismantles fear-based power structures. If you truly believed in that fucking Bible that you sit and you carry and you read and you preach to everyone else, then you wouldn't give a flying fuck who loves who. Because you believe in divine love. If you believe that Jesus, that God, that the Holy Spirit loves you, supports you, and doesn't care about your past sins or digressions, then why do you care who loves who? You know what's funny? Pagan spirituality teaches us something that is essential. That everything is connected. And if you have gotten into pagan spirituality, witchcraft, Wicca, Norse paganism, heathenism, any of those things, then you know damn well that you have learned this. Everything is connected. Well, I'm going to let you know a secret. Every other religion believes that too. Except for a couple. A couple of big ones. A couple of big ones that have fought holy wars and crusades and unalived hundreds of thousands of people. That have changed the European DNA because of how many people they unalived. Every Native American religion knows that everything is connected. Every spiritual practice throughout the world knows that everything is connected. Y'all, quantum physics proves that everything is connected. We understand ecosystems. We understand cycles. We understand that if you harm one thing, that ripples outward. If the moon were suddenly gone, what would happen to the earth? We know that the moon affects the tides. We know that the tides affect the earth. We know that without those tides, a lot of things don't happen. A lot of cycles don't happen. Without moonlight, a lot of things don't happen, don't grow. Do you know there are things that cannot grow in the sunshine? They have to grow in the reflected moonlight? When one group is oppressed, the whole rippled web is strained. The whole rippled web is strained when one single group is oppressed. And I don't care what group it is. Protecting humans, protecting your fellow humans is not separate from protecting the earth. Because you can't protect one without protecting the other. And if you are a pagan, if you are spiritual in any way, if you are a Buddhist, if you are a heathen, if you are Wiccan, if you are any Native American tribe, if you are any South American tribe, if you are anything, you know that protecting humans, protecting your fellow human beings is not separate than protecting the earth. You cannot protect one without protecting the other. Protecting the dignity of your fellow humans is not separate from protecting the fucking balance that you so strive to have in your life. How the fuck are you going to have balance without dignity? Justice is not a modern invention, y'all. It's an ancient instinct. It's a universal law. It lives in the bones of every single one of your ancestors, of my ancestors, of all their ancestors. It lives in the rhythm of the earth, in the rhythm of the land, in the rhythm of the sun, in the rhythm of the universe. It lives in the refusal to let cruelty be normalized. And if you are spiritual, if you are witchy, if you are whatever, and you disagree with anything that I'm saying, we are not friends. And you are a false pagan. You are a false witch. You are a false Christian. You are a false Buddhist. You are a false whatever your spirituality is. If you disagree with anything that spirituality is about, then you are fake. And you are doing it for the aesthetic. And we are not friends. I said what I said. And you are a chicken shit. And you will be the first one to be so appalled when something happens to someone you love. And we will not feel sorry for you. If you would not defend someone that's a different race than you, then we're not friends. If you would not defend someone that is in the LGBTQ plus community, we definitely are not friends. If you would not defend somebody because they believe something differently than you, we are not friends. If you're okay with any of the things that are going on in the United States right now, we are not friends. We are not friends. If you are spiritual and you are protecting these things, we are not friends. We are straight up enemies. And know that I'm very good at what I do. So what do you do with all of this stuff that I've said today? What do you do with all of it? What do you do with it? Because listening isn't enough. Feeling moved isn't enough. If you have benefited from any freedom that anyone has given their life for, I don't care where you are in the world. If you have benefited from any freedom at all, then you have a responsibility to defend it. Standing up doesn't always mean shouting, but standing up also does not mean being silent. It means standing up and refusing to be silent anymore. And that's why I'm given the sermon that I'm given. I have tried for so long to be as calm about it, as neutral about it as I can. I can't anymore. I can't anymore. Not with the dream that I had this morning of lines of people firing into other lines of people and calling it justice. Three seconds of a dream is all it took. And I'm worried that it's coming. Because I've had these kind of dreams my entire life. And I know when they are not just dreams. And I'm mad. Standing up means calling out the harm when it shows up in polite language. It means getting out and voting. It means intervening safely. It means supporting marginalized voices, even when it costs you your comfort zone. It means watching the news. It means paying attention, and it means being informed. And it means that if someone reaches out to you for help, you do what you can. And if you are somebody that has the means, the abilities, the space, etc., to help someone out, please message me. Please message me. Please message me. Kindness without courage is passive. And courage without kindness is destructive. And we are called right now to hold both of those. I want you to remember all of the people that stood before you, all of your ancestors, every single one of them. And I want you to remember the ones that were part of history and know that they didn't wake up that morning knowing that they were going to be part of history. I want you to remember every single one of your ancestors that stood up when standing was dangerous. I want you to honor those who fought so we could sit here with these freedoms today. So that we can become the ancestors that someone thanks one day for standing up and not giving up when it fucking mattered. You, right now, woke up, not knowing history was going to find you today. Here it is. In a small little bronze coin, here it is. In that little video you saw on TikTok, here it is. In that news story that you read online, here it is. May we become the ancestors that someone thanks one day for not giving up when it mattered. Stand up for what you fucking believe in. Stand up for your fellow humans. Stand up because the world doesn't change when we're fucking quiet. It changes when we fucking show up. It changes when you don't run and hide. When you throw the buckets over the heads of people that need them to protect them. When you help people do what they need to do to survive. When you pull your neighbors out of the burning waters. It fucking shows up. May your spirituality be your backbone. May your compassion give you direction. May your courage outlive your fear. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage against the dying of the light.